What do you guys think of the 2026 offseason for the Denver Nuggets that we'll be recapping? Let me hear those thoughts, comments all down below. This is a team that's sort of not done. Like, they still got a few things they got to figure out. Peyton Watson and Spencer Jones are two of those guys that, from my understanding, are going to be brought back. So it's interesting how
little editor's note talking about Spencer Jones, because when we recorded this, Spencer Jones had not been offered by the Thunder, nor had the Nuggets matched it. But Denver made the smart move by matching the Oklahoma City Thunder's 2-year, $12 million offer sheet for Spencer Jones, even with the significant financial implications. If the Nuggets had not matched, they would have only been able to offer another player the veteran minimum to replace him. So in other words, to replace a player of Spencer Jones' production, they would have had to go into the back end of the bargain bin and looked for someone willing to take a minimum contract, especially a veteran minimum, meaning that the league would prorate it after the third year of service cost. ESPN reported on July 26th that the Nuggets retained the key shooter who was in restricted free agency, as he was a homegrown talent. They landed in 2024 in undrafted free agency. So let's break down real quickly before we get into offseason recap about the contract. Jones carries a flat $6 million in year one and declines to 5.75 in year two. Jones cannot consent to a trade, and they cannot move him to OKC this season if they were to trade him, and the tax penalty for matching Jones equals $68 million. As a second apron team, Denver's luxury tax penalty will increase to at least $112 million when including the Peyton Watson's qualifying offer, which would be the minimum Watson would return on. Barring a trade, the Nuggets' luxury tax penalties will only climb further. For example, once they had matched Jones's offer sheet, and if they sign Watson to a contract in the $23 million range, which I've heard is closer to the $10 million range, that would put the Nuggets at $238 million in tax penalties, including an average annual value contract for Peyton Watson at $23 million and Jones's contract. And that figure does not include payroll. The repeater luxury tax also compounds the impact on Denver's salary cap. Currently, the luxury tax penalty stands at $36.4 million. Now, with Jones, it has risen to 68.6. So let me rephrase that. Before matching Jones, it was at 36.4 million. Now that they had matched it, it's 68.6 million.
Agency, they still have Curtis Jones and Jalen Pickett as three guys that you'd have to assume, and even Bruce Brown out there, with all those guys all being probably individuals that they'll bring back. So for my thoughts, you'd probably give a guy like Bruce the minimum just because you know what to expect there. And the current team doesn't have any two-ways besides KJ Simpson. Are you hoping to be able to give some money to Spencer that's left over after you re-sign like Peyton? And the same goes with Jalen Pickett. He's somebody that if they want to just fill out the roster, he's probably going to be someone that they end up giving the minimum to, because that's all they can. Looking at Peyton Watson, I think you're trying to give him a 3-year deal. Maybe if you're trying to protect yourself, you put a partial guarantee or a team option at the end, and it also allows him to test free agency again down the road. While Spencer Jones, if you're able to, you still have some of the biennial exception. He's someone who's worth, I think giving him the biennial exception's probably not what you want to do, because it hard caps the team at the first apron. And you can give him a raise. What if you just give him a 3-year deal of 2.5, 2.7, 2.9, which is 8.2 altogether? Then you re-sign Curtis Jones as a two-way player, which isn't crazy. And then you just do him on a 1-year deal. Then you re-sign Jalen Pickett as your minimum, which allows you to walk into training camp with about 17 players on the main roster. or yeah, just 17 players in general with 2-2-ways and 15-man roster. I also love the Alpha Diallo pickup. And like Julian Strawther isn't someone that I think they'll be extending, even if he's extension eligible, due to the fact that he has, for the rookie scale extension to start, I think it's not enough. Same thing with like Cameron Johnson. I just don't think they're going to extend him right now. If they were going to re-sign, it'd be down the road. So to me, the biggest thing is when you look at this team, I wonder what's going to... I do like Payne starting, and I think Spencer Jones has surpassed Julian Strawther as being a part of the rotation. You're hoping Deron Holmes makes a jump. Trayvon Brazile can play both the 4 and the 5. He's athletic enough. To me, this team is a bit better. Alpha Diallo, I think, is someone who's going to impress people. He could really supplant Bruce Brown from his job. And I think that's, quite honestly, a team that is a bit better than you would think. Now, let's just talk about this team in general and move forward. They went 54-28. They were 5th in the league. They had a plus 5.2 net rating. They had another great regular season, fronted by an all-time offense, the league's most efficient offense, a defense that lags, though, which has been a theme in the Jokic era, and their bench ran thin. Their offense rating was 121, 61.6 true shooting percentage, top of the league, a 49.6% field goal rate, 116 defense rating, which has been a persistent drag, and a 2.2 assist to turnover ratio. Year 2 of David Adelman is going to be patch the bench cheaply, run it back, continuity, and see if keeping it intact will work. The continuity around Jokic is, I think, look, Jamal Murray looked great, but they spent the summer just keeping it together, running it back at the top, and have been shopping the bargain bin to fill out a bench that thinned out. And no big move is the story in keeping Payne Watson and Spencer Jones and rebuffing any restricted free agency has been interesting. I think getting Marvin Bagley's proven to be an efficient microwave switch big who can be a backup big body is addressing a need that they needed. He's more serviceable, and he'll at least give you something more than what we know Deron Holmes and Zeke Nnaji have been able to provide. Hopefully Holmes or Nnaji can take a leap. Alpha Diallo is the best defender in Europe, and he can hit 3-point shots, so they got him cheap. And then Trayvon Brazile is an athletic freak that he could work out for them. They also have still Bryce Hopkins that they have to figure out, who I think that's their third two-way. If they bring back Curtis Jones and they already have KJ Simpson, I think their third two-way is going to be Bryce Hopkins. Now, they lost the bench shooting in Tim Hardaway Jr., which you're hoping that Spencer Jones, Alpha Diallo, you bring back Payne Watson, and you move Cam to the bench, is going to be able to replace and replenish. And I think Marvin Bagley is going to replace Jonas Valanciunas, who, like, he was the better center option, backup center option that they've had in years. But the problem is he's so concrete-footed that Marvin is an upgrade at this point. We assume Murray, Brown, either Johnson or Watson, Gordon, Jokic is the starting lineup. Jokic, Murray, Gordon, Johnson, Watson, Brown is probably the 6-man rotation. They offensively have one of the best starting fives, regardless of Watson or Johnson being in there. I think the concern has always been the bench shooting and ball handling, and the non-Jokic minutes at center. I think the overall depth after losing Tim Hardaway Jr. was addressed as cheaply as possible with a combination of older guys or unproven players. Tyus Jones, Jalen Pickett, and KJ Simpson are going to be the ones who, if they bring back Jalen Pickett, are going to be the ones who are going to take over the guards. And Tyus might be a little over the hill. Look, Bagley is a body, but he's not a rim protector. He's more of an offensive guy. And Zeke can defend the rim, so can Trayvon and Deron Holmes. They just haven't done it well so far in the league. I think offensively you remain the same. Your bench and defense got kind of like cheap patches than real fixes. So for me right now, you look like a top 4 seed. But when you get to the postseason, you're going to be riding Jokic, Murray, and hoping the bench can survive. So can the bench hold up? Can the defense hold up? And what's the rim and protection going to look like? Who's guarding the opposing team's best star, especially if Aaron Gordon or somebody gets hurt? That's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below.